The full episode is now available on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Please see the link in the description for more details.
And we are back to talk about what's happening in the news with Ice and Fire. Yes, there's still news. I know this is going to be a very dry year. It has been so far, but somehow I find something.
Sometimes you get, I always get these questions every once in a while that are like, what do you guys talk about after like 15 years? And you're like, and it's like, well, surprisingly, there's a lot. There's the shows. There's
George crashing out.
George and his meltdowns, and all sorts of stuff. So there's crazily so much to talk about, which is funny, right? Anyway, yes.
So one of the things I posted recently on social media is that George is out here scheduling a lot of appearances, quite a number of them actually, for someone supposedly not done with that one thing. I know it's copium, hopium, all into one, injected into my goddamn veins, but his schedule is a bit more packed than usual, and I'm hoping it's packed schedule because he's going to announce something, and I know you guys and Preston are going to say no, but here's the thing. It turns out we're all wrong, somehow, because we're the idiots for not realizing that George somehow finished Winds of Winter back in 2016. Did you know about this?
It's one of the dumbest theories that I've ever heard.
Theory? Bro, I wish it was a theory.
I wish it was a theory. Yeah, I know. It's one of the dumbest ideas that I've ever heard. Like, George is definitely not finished. He's definitely not finished.
Preston, not only has he been finished all this time, he's been lying to us that he's been finished. Either he's lying to us, or Pam Bondi is actually his editor, and she somehow lost the Winds of Winter, amongst other things lately.
Is George R. R. Martin the greatest actor of all time?
He might be.
It's not like when we see him at appearances, and when you see him like writing stuff, that his being upset and lamenting the fact that the book isn't done, isn't very apparent. It's very apparent.
Let me explain this for the audience who are confused. What? Winds was finished in 2016? So this is something I hesitated to cover. I did briefly speak out about it on social media. I didn't really want to cover it when it first came out, but it has since spread to other publications and other YouTubers are covering it, to where I feel like I don't have to name drop the guy specifically because he is a terrible person. But according to this one YouTuber, and he's the reason I also don't want to mention him is because he's the usual type of guy to complain about lesbians in video games, and not only that, but he's also he has some reports out on him, police reports out on him that he beat his wife and all that. So I don't want to give someone like that attention. But I feel as though you and I are in a perfect position to talk about this and debunk it, because we've been covering George and his works for over 10 years now, and we've always done our due diligence when going over the material or any updates around this topic specifically. And I feel like we have been very realistic about this whole situation. I know you're more pessimistic than I am, and I have hope that we'll get something, but you're less convinced. That's fine.
Sure.
But I am glad you're here because, again, I don't think there's anybody else on YouTube that has gone into his stuff as extensively as you have. So, Preston, I have to ask you, did George finish Winds of Winter back in 2016?
It's so wrong and so dumb on so many levels that I just don't even... I'm nonplussed. I'm not even sure how to approach it. I mean, the first thing I would say is, you and I have seen George R. R. Martin in many, many appearances, and we have read many of his blogs. And in his writing and in his appearances, it's very apparent that he is upset with the fact that he has not finished The Winds of Winter. So the idea that actually he finished it and he's been cheeky and he's been keeping it a secret for years and is just not there. I mean, do you remember when Andrew Garfield was doing an interview circuit before... And he was going around claiming that he wasn't in the Spider-Man
No Way Home
multiverse movie. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was going around claiming, he was going on stuff, and he's like, yeah, I know there's been pictures of Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire, and they're saying they're doing a multiverse movie, but they just didn't call me up. I didn't get the call. And no one believed him. Now keep in mind, Andrew Garfield is a professional actor, and he is a damn fucking good professional actor, okay? This is his craft. And he could not believably lie about whether he was in No Way Home. No one believed him. And looking at it, it's like, well, it wasn't a believable performance, like, for him claiming it. George R. R. Martin is not an actor. He is a writer. He does not know how to pretend to have finished a book and then go around like convincingly after just con after con, interview after interview, writing a blog post after blog post, ones where he fucking has melted down embarrassingly and has like deleted them and things like this. Like, the idea that somehow he's been acting the entire time, 15 fucking years, and is actually like happily sitting on a finished Winds of Winter, like, on that level, it's just so silly. It's just so dumb. Now, beyond it's impossible that he's acting, and like, then there's the logic of like, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone not release the book for years?
So I've heard two credible theories that this guy that we're talking about does not really insert in his videos. Two possible theories, and I can see why people would think this. The first one being that he did finish, and then he saw the reaction to the show, and now he's going back to the drawing board to try to change things up. The second theory is that he did finish, but because he's a perfectionist, he finished, he read it himself, and he's like, it's just not good. So he went back to the drawing board. So he's redoing it again. That's the other theory. And those theories, okay.
Why wouldn't he tell people that I'm in the final editing phase rather than I have 1,100 pages?
So this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this, is because you have a whole video on George's editing process for Dance of Dragons, right?
Mm-hmm, yes.
So, and what's the name of that video so people can go check it out?
Jeez. What did I name it? What did I name it?
You forgot? What? You technically have two videos. One of them is about the Dance of Dragons editing process and like how he was blogging about it. And the second one was George R. R. Martin's progress. And I think you included clips from him going on Conan, or was it before Conan?
So the one on his progress is called the History of the Winds of Winter of Pessimists.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. The one on his writing process about dance is called The Winds of Winter in 2025. What does dance tell us about that? And so like the pessimist's history one, which is a much bigger video that I think everybody.
Wait a minute. I think the pessimist video came. No, I was wrong. The pessimist video you uploaded in the summer. And then a couple months later, he did an appearance on one of the late night shows where he said he was around the same percentage that you said in your video. So you were on the money.
Yeah. I think I said 67% and he said 75% or something.
Right. And not only that, though, but we also know from George's friend, Elio Garcia, who has worked with George before, has had dinners with George. Elio is one of the very few people that George has complained about House of the Dragon to. So Elio knows a couple of things or two. Elio Garcia has also said that what's keeping George up from Winds is him trying to put himself in a position where after Winds is done, one book is the next thing, and that's it. Because you have for years said that there's no way he can finish it up in Winds and Dream. There has to be an 8th book. But Elio is saying that what's keeping George up at night is this thing here. He wants to do Winds.
Well, that's another thing. But the final reason why I don't think George has finished the book is his relationship with his publisher. Like you have a professional relationship with your publisher, and you're in many ways, I mean, you make contracts with them and you have deals with them, and publishers rely on their big name people to survive. And then they kind of throw risks around at smaller people. So like, if you are a huge tentpole moneymaker for a publishing house and you're not bringing it in, that that is massively destructive for that company and whether and for other other writers out there that they can be sponsoring and taking risks on. It's just like a movie studio. Imagine if a movie studio all of a sudden was like, sorry, no more James Bond movies. Like that's a big deal because then now they can't take any risks on like smaller films, or maybe they don't take risks on smaller films anymore. But for instance, like the guy who wrote the Kingkiller Chronicles, Patrick Rothfuss.
I was just about to mention him specifically because I've been looking up this topic for a while now. Someone mentioned that the publishing company that puts out his stuff might have gone bankrupt from him not writing the next one. And I don't know how true that is, but I'm sure it hurt them quite a bit for him not to put anything out.
Oh, it 100% bankrupted the publishing company. 100%. And his publisher and editor were very upset and open about the fact. And people brought up the this idea of like, writers don't owe readers anything. And they're like, maybe that's true, but writers owe publishers something, and so now that said, George R.R. Martin has been doing a lot of things for his publisher over the years. He's been doing a lot of things. I mean, Fire and Blood is that. The World of Ice and Fire is that. The World of Ice and Fire Illustrated or whatever, Blood and Fire. Like, what did they name the new illustrated abridged The World of Ice and Fire one? You know what I'm talking about? That came out a couple of years ago.
Yes.
These illustrated A Storm of Swords, illustrated A Feast for Crows. Like the whole reason George R. R. Martin is going to these cons in the fall is to advertise the illustrated A Feast for Crows. Like he does feel an obligation to help his publisher. And so he hasn't given them the fucking white whale, but he's giving them some consolation prizes. So it just wouldn't have happened. Like he would have, if he had a finished product, he would have fucking published it and made that money for himself and everybody else that's all around him that rely on him. So no, it's 0 fucking % chance that he has finished The Winds of Winter. It is whoever would push this theory is dumb. I'm not sugarcoating it. There a lot of times you're like, oh, what about this crazy theory? And I'm like, yeah, the probabilities are low, but no, there's no fucking chance George R. R. Martin has finished The Winds of Winter. And the reasons are, he's not that good of an actor. You can. Why wouldn't he have released it? Because of like the weight on his shoulders, and then his relationship with his publisher, and like on a professional level, you wouldn't fucking do that.
This whole story and this whole situation just has so many layers of stupidity. But one of the ones I haven't even got into yet is the most insulting, which is in that same video, the same guy wants to say how if and when Winds does come out, it won't be that good, because AI could have done a better job. Like, come on, man, really?
I think it's a level of jealousy of people that can't write and people that can't draw. And, well, also, writing and drawing, they're skills that take many fucking hours to craft. And so this idea that all of a sudden I can do a shortcut and like, oh, now I can just put in a prompt and haha, suck it, I can do this too, is kind of odd. Like, all of a sudden they don't need all of those hours. All of the insecurity they had about being unable to draw and write, now it's gone. Because they can just put in a prompt. Now they've somehow been equalized. It's also very similar to the people that are into like crypto or get rich schemes. Like they're like, well, I don't have the intelligence or the hardworking mentality or anything like that to earn money, but maybe I can get rich quick too. It's an attitude of wanting to cut corners and feeling like, haha, just as good as these like talented people who worked really fucking hard at something. Because writing is really hard, and artwork is really hard, and earning money is really hard. And the idea that you can just like do it, like I've got an app and I can fucking like do it, you know, is you know, that's part of it. It's this weird like indignant laziness, like angry at people that are like smart and talented, jealous of people that are smart and talented.
And I want to remind the audience that this whole idea of George possibly being done isn't new, but what is this alleged confirmation that he did finish almost 10 years ago, and the source is, just trust me, bro. Which is so dumb because as someone who covers the news and updates on this channel, anytime I do so, I always make sure to let the audience know my source and where I'm getting this information from. And in some cases, I go out and actually get it. For example, when George last year went to Bubonic, he planned on having that appearance recorded, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't. So I went and found someone who attended and got the details from them, and eventually George would later confirm in future blog posts most of everything we got from that person. Another example is a few months back when a smaller Thrones channel insisted that they met an author at Sanderson's Con who claimed that George was already finished. Well, I reached out, I found that guy and I reached out to him and I got him to clarify his statements, and he said, no, those guys were mistaken. I don't know if George was finished. Preston, you remember last year when I told you my friend who worked for Apple, she saw wins as a listings on the developer side for their ebook stuff. That was in April of 2024, and I never made a video on that because not only could I not confirm what she saw was concrete, could have been a mistake or whatever, could have been a placeholder, who knows, but it just wasn't something I was able to verify and run with and just feel confident in. Putting something like that out there without any legs for it to stand on is the stupidest thing you could do, and it would ruin the credibility of this channel and anything I cover, considering these topics. It's something I've been pivoting to going forward, doing these types of investigative essays on the series, and I don't want to just put out slop and garbage, which is what this guy's basically doing.
I remember you coming to me and being like, does this mean anything? And I'm like, no. But I remember this period of time where you were like coming to me and like, is this legit? I'm like, no, it doesn't mean anything.